In most horror movies, there's at least one person you can trust, one ally who sees what you see. However, in these films, that safety net doesn't exist. The nightmare isn't just supernatural or violent, it's social. It's the slow, sinking dread of realizing that every smile, every reassurance, every friendly face was part of a larger design. Today, we're diving into horror movies where the most devastating twist isn't who the villain is. It's that everyone was in on it. 1. Rosemary's Baby, 1968. When Rosemary and Guy Woodhouse move into Bramford, the danger doesn't announce itself. It arrives as friendly neighbors and helpful advice. Minnie and Roman Castevet quickly embed themselves into the couple's lives, despite warnings about the building's history of witchcraft. A young woman they had taken in, Terry, mysteriously dies after receiving a strange tannis root pendant. A pendant Minnie soon passes on to Rosemary. Even early on, the pattern is there: proximity, influence, replacement. The conspiracy deepens when Guy's struggling acting career suddenly takes off after a rival actor inexplicably goes blind. We later learn that it wasn't a coincidence, it was a trade. Guy agreed to offer Rosemary to the Coven in exchange for career success. The conspiracy isn't just supernatural, it's transactional. On the night they plan to conceive, Minnie brings chocolate mousse laced with tannis root that leaves Rosemary dizzy and unconscious. In a dreamlike haze, she's surrounded by nude figures as a demonic presence assaults her. The next morning, Guy admits he slept with her while she was passed out. The ritual wasn't imagined. It was organized, witnessed, and agreed upon. From there, the horror becomes systemic. The Castevets insist she see their chosen obstetrician, Dr. Saperstein, who dismisses her agonizing pain and isolates her from outside opinions. Hutch, the only friend who suspects the Bramford's satanic past, falls into a sudden coma after investigating. When Rosemary discovers that Roman Castevet is an anagram tied to a Satanist lineage, even Guy turns on her, discarding her evidence and framing her fears as hysteria. The final reveal isn't just that her child is Satan's son, it's that every reassurance, smile, and medical decision was coordinated. Rosemary was never paranoid. She was surrounded. That's what makes this the blueprint for social conspiracy horror. The neighbors, the doctor, the husband, the party guests gathered around the cradle in the final scene. They were all in on it from the beginning. 2. The Wicker Man, 1973. If Rosemary's Baby shows us a conspiracy hiding inside an apartment building, The Wicker Man expands that nightmare to an entire island. Sergeant Neil Howie arrives at Summer Isle to investigate the disappearance of a young girl named Rowan Morrison. Immediately, he feels the cultural divide. The islanders practice open pagan rituals, sing fertility songs, and dismiss Christianity as outdated superstition. When Howie asks about Rowan, everyone insists she never existed. The landlord, the school teacher, even the children. Yet her name appears in the school register. Her grave exists. Something is being hidden. As Howie digs deeper, he uncovers the island's history. When crops fail, a human sacrifice is offered to the gods. He finds Rowan's grave empty except for a hair and a harvest photograph revealing a failed yield. Convinced Rowan will be sacrificed during May Day, he tries to intervene, but every step he takes has already been anticipated. His plane won't start. His calls for help are impossible. Even his infiltration of the parade in disguise plays directly into their ritual. When Rowan is revealed alive, Howie believes he has saved her, only to learn the devastating truth. She was never the sacrifice. He is. He fits their requirements perfectly. He came willingly, represents the law, is sexually pure, and, most importantly, is a fool for believing he was investigating a crime rather than participating in a ceremony. That's the core of the horror. There was never a missing girl. There was never a mystery to solve. Every conversation, every denial, every song, and every flirtation was part of a unified performance. An entire island rehearsed his execution. No dissenters, no hidden ally, no one secretly sympathetic. On Summer Isle, the conspiracy isn't whispered in corners. It's communal. Everyone was in on it. 3. Get Out, 2017. If The Wicker Man shows a community united by ritual, Get Out shows a community united by something even more unsettling: politeness. From the moment Chris arrives at the Armitage estate, everything feels slightly off. Rose's father overcompensates with awkward declarations about voting for Obama. Her mother, Missy, gently pressures Chris into hypnotherapy under the guise of helping him quit smoking. The house staff, Georgina and Walter, move and speak with eerie stiffness. Nothing is overtly hostile. In fact, everyone is welcoming. That's the trap. The hypnosis session sends Chris into the sunken place, a paralyzed state where he can see but not control his body. It's the first literal sign that something is stealing autonomy. The deeper horror unfolds at the Armitage's garden party. Wealthy white guests comment on Chris's physique, genetics, and eye. Their microaggressions feel awkward until we realize they're evaluating him. When they hold a silent auction using his photograph as the prize, the conspiracy becomes clear. This isn't a social gathering, it's a marketplace. The girlfriend, the parents, the brother, the servants, the guests, even the blind art dealer who admires his photography. They're all participants in the coagula procedure, surgically transplanting their brains into black bodies while trapping the original consciousness in the sunken place. Rose wasn't naive. She was recruiting. The deer accident, the defense against the cop, the photos of past partners, all part of a practiced routine. That's what makes Get Out such powerful social horror. The threat isn't masked villains in robes. It's liberal smiles, it's compliments, it's cultural performance disguising predation. Chris wasn't meeting the family. He was being appraised, and everyone at that party already knew it. 4. The Village, 2004. Get Out uses politeness as a mask for exploitation, whereas The Village reveals something quieter, fear itself as a tool of control. On the surface, The Village appears to exist in 19th century Pennsylvania, isolated and surrounded by woods inhabited by those we do not speak of. Red is forbidden because it attracts the creatures. Watchtowers guard the perimeter. The rules are absolute. No one enters the forest, and the creatures will not enter the village. The younger generation accepts this mythology as truth. But when Lucius Hunt asks to travel to the towns for medicine after a child dies, the elders deny him. Soon after, skinned animals appear, and the creatures invade the village at night, leaving red warnings on doors, reinforcing the fear. It feels like escalation. In reality, it's reinforcement. The turning point comes when Ivy, Lucius's blind fiancée, is told the truth by her father, Edward Walker. The monsters aren't real. The elders have been dressing in costumes, staging attacks, and manufacturing terror to keep their children from discovering the modern world beyond the woods. The entire 19th century setting is a fabrication. The village exists inside a 21st century wildlife preserve, funded by Edward's fortune and protected by a government no-fly zone. Only the younger generation is deceived. Every elder knows and keeps the secret. They keep locked boxes containing relics of their former lives, proof of the lie. Even Noah's death is folded into the myth to preserve the illusion. That's what makes the village textbook everyone was in on it. The monsters were invented. The danger was staged. The isolation was engineered. The community didn't just believe the lie, they built it together. 5. Dead and Buried, 1981. While the village manufactures fear to keep its people inside, Dead and Buried presents something even more disturbing. A town that doesn't just share a secret, but functions as a single, unified organism. Potter's Bluff looks like any quiet coastal town, but from the opening scene, something is wrong. A visiting photographer is lured in by a friendly local woman, only to be brutally beaten and burned alive by a smiling mob of townspeople. He survives briefly before being finished off in the hospital by the same woman posing as a nurse. The pattern continues. Outsiders arrive, the entire town participates in their murders, and someone always takes photographs as if documenting a ritual. Sheriff Dan Gillis tries to investigate, but every lead circles back into something unnatural. Bodies don't behave like bodies. After Gillis hits a man with his car, the victim tears off his own severed arm and runs away. And medical tests reveal the flesh has been dead for months. The mortician, William Dobbs, grows increasingly suspicious. A background check reveals he was once dismissed for unethical experiments. The truth is worse than conspiracy. It's orchestration. Dobbs has perfected a technique to reanimate the dead, and every single townsperson is one of his creations. The butcher, the waitress, the grieving widow, even Gillis's own wife Janet are all resurrected corpses carrying out Dobbs's art. They murder visitors to create new subjects. They attend funerals and maintain the illusion of normalcy. Then comes the final devastating reveal. Gillis himself was killed long ago. Dobbs shows him footage of his own death at Janet's hands. His memories, investigation, and sense of reality have all been manipulated. This isn't just a town hiding a secret, it's a town that shares one. In Potter's Bluff, the whole town is in on it because the whole town is already dead. 6. Children of the Corn, 1984. If Dead and Buried shows a town united in death, Children of the Corn shows a town united by something even more unsettling. Its children. Gatlin, Nebraska looks abandoned when Bert and Vicky accidentally hit a young boy on the road, but the child's throat was already slit. When they search for help, they discover the horrifying truth. There are no adults left. Years earlier, after a failed harvest, a 9-year-old preacher named Isaac led the town's children into the cornfields, where he indoctrinated them into worshiping a bloodthirsty deity known as He Who Walks Behind the Rows. Under Isaac's influence and with Malachi enforcing his rule, the children murdered every adult in town as ritual sacrifice. Now the cornfields are their church, and the town is their kingdom. Every child participates. They conduct blood rituals in the church. They enforce strict age limits. Anyone who turns 19 must be sacrificed. They guard the roads. They capture outsiders. Even the town's last surviving adult mechanic only remains alive because he supplies them with fuel under threat of death until they kill him too. This isn't one possessed child. It's an entire generation radicalized and unified under fanatic belief. When Vicky is tied to a cross in the cornfield and Bert is dragged before a congregation of chanting children, the horror isn't subtle. There are no dissenters stepping forward, no secret protector, no sympathetic face in the crowd. In Gatlin, the conspiracy isn't hidden. It's generational. Every child believes, every child obeys, and everyone is in on it. 7. Apostle 2018. If Children of the Corn shows fanaticism taking over a town, Apostle shows what happens when belief becomes infrastructure. In 1905, Thomas Richardson travels to a remote Welsh island to rescue his kidnapped sister, Jennifer. He infiltrates the cult posing as a convert, only to discover that the island operates as a closed system of ritual sacrifice. Its leader, Malcolm Howe, claims the land was once barren until blood offerings to a captured forest deity made it fertile. The crops thrive, but only if the sacrifices continue and everyone knows it. The island isn't controlled by ignorance, it's maintained by participation. Malcolm, Quinn, and Frank built the religion together. Villagers attend purification rituals. They watch public executions. They enforce obedience. When resources run low, they escalate, kidnapping outsiders for ransom and offering dissenters to the goddess. Even internal rebellion doesn't break the system. It feeds it. Jeremy is publicly executed. Effion is mutilated. Dissent is ritualized. The true horror emerges when Thomas discovers the goddess isn't symbolic. She's real, imprisoned in roots beneath a barn. Malcolm feeds her blood to sustain the harvest. Quinn plots to weaponize her power further, planning generational breeding for endless sacrifice. The brutality isn't hidden. It's justified. It's sacred. That's the key to Apostle's place on this list. This isn't a secret coven operating in shadows. It's an entire society structured around violence. From the leaders to the masked executioner known as the Grinder, every person enforces the ritual order. Even those who question it are trapped inside it. On this island, brutality isn't chaos. It's doctrine, and everyone is in on it. 8. The Belko Experiment 2016. If Apostle shows belief systems justifying brutality, the Belko Experiment strips away religion and replaces it with something colder: corporate control. 80 employees arrive at their Bogota office building to find unfamiliar security guards and the local staff turned away. Soon, a voice over the intercom announces a simple instruction: kill 2 co-workers within 30 minutes or there will be consequences. They assume it's a prank until 4 employees' heads explode from the tracking devices implanted in their skulls. The building seals shut. The experiment escalates. Kill 30 or 60 die. Factions form. Mike Milch argues for solidarity. Barry Norris insists on compliance. Guns are seized. Colleagues execute colleagues in stairwells and boardrooms. By the end of the slaughter, the voice reveals the final rule. Only the person who has killed the most will survive. Here's where the everyone was in on it angle shifts. The employees aren't conspirators, they are subjects. The real conspiracy exists above them. The steel shutters, the trackers, the soldiers outside shooting at escape attempts, this was engineered. The chaos inside the building is not random human breakdown, it's data collection. When Mike survives and is escorted to a hangar, he discovers the Architects, an international organization studying human behavior. The massacre wasn't about punishment, it was about observation. Even more chilling, screens reveal other survivors from similar experiments. This was just stage one. Not everyone inside Belko was in on it, but the system was the authority, the infrastructure, the observers behind the glass. In this version of horror, the conspiracy isn't cultish. It's corporate and someone was always watching. 9. Race with the Devil, 1975. If the Belko Experiment shows conspiracy from above, Race with the Devil suggests something even more unsettling, a conspiracy that's everywhere. Roger and Frank, two motorcycle dealers from Texas, set out with their wives on a road trip to Colorado. One night, while camping in a remote meadow, they witness a satanic ritual sacrifice across a river. When they're spotted, they barely escape with their lives. From that moment on, the horror isn't just what they saw, it's who might have seen them. They report the ritual to the local sheriff, but his dismissive response feels off. Soon, strange symbols appear on their RV. A red truck follows them from town to town. At an RV park, residents stare too long. A friendly dinner invitation turns ominous. Their dog is brutally killed and hung from the RV door. Rattlesnakes are planted inside. Every stop feels compromised. What makes this film fit the theme so perfectly is the escalation. It's not just one town hiding a secret. The cult appears networked across highways, diners, repair shops, and law enforcement. Phone lines conveniently fail. A stage school bus accident attempts to trap them. The sheriff may be involved. The musicians may be involved. The other vacationing couple is involved. The couples can fight off individual attackers, but they can't outrun the system. In the final scene, just as they believe they've reached safety, they're surrounded in an open field by hooded cultists, including people they previously trusted. A ring of fire traps them inside their RV as chanting fills the night. The horror here isn't just ritual sacrifice, it's scale. No matter where they go, someone is already there, and everyone is in on it. In each of these films, the horror doesn't come from something hiding in the dark. It comes from the moment the protagonist realizes there was never anyone on their side. Whether it's an apartment building, an isolated island, a small town, or an entire network stretching across the country, the real terror is collective. Smiles mask rituals. Politeness hides predation. Community becomes conspiracy. If you enjoyed this breakdown of horror movies where everyone was in on it, let me know which one disturbed you the most in the comments below. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe for more deep dives into horror, and I'll see you in the next nightmare.